Welcome back to part 3 of our Game of the Decade series, in which we go through the 2010s year by year to find the best game of each one, before coming back to debate which of the 10 nominees are the true Game of the Decade. And this time it's 2012's turn. The 5 participating GameXplain members each have 3.5 minutes to make their case for what they believe the best game of that year is, and then they'll have to defend it for the same amount of time in the interrogation round. Once everyone's presented and defended their game, we'll all vote, and that includes you too, as we're counting our lovely fan base as a 6th GameXplain member. Just use the link in the description below to make your voice heard, and we'll announce the results at the beginning of the next year's video. And speaking of which, congratulations to The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword for just barely taking the crown as our nomination for 2011's Game of the Decade. And with that, let's get to our 2012 Game of the Decade arguments. Take it away, John.
Alright, so my 2012 Game of the Year is... Hang on. What's my presentation? This is just blank... What's going on?
John's just not qualified.
Emptiness? Nothingness. It's almost like this game went a long time without anything. The 3D gang! There's Mario, there's Link, there's Pikachu, there's Samus, there's Donkey Kong, there's Little Mac, there's Bubsy. All of these went from 2D to 3D. Apart from one boy was denied another dimension. Until the Nintendo 3DS. The very first 3DS game ever shown had legacy, had impact, had desire, and it subverted expectations. This game was disrespected on youtube.com/GameXplain. This game is Kid Icarus Uprising. Nice. It was an unusual transition. Mario was still a platformer when it went to 3D. Zelda was still an adventure game. Bubsy was still mediocre. But Kid Icarus reimagined itself because the original kind of sucked. The original was a fine game, but Uprising took the identity of the original and made an entirely new franchise out of it. There we go, get rid of the original. We don't want it around here. It's no longer a platformer, this is a Nintendo shooter. And it was all about spectacle. Uprising was split into 2 different styles. There was flight on land and flight in the sky. And this is on the sky section, some of the best the genre has ever seen. But don't take it from me. Take it from Andre Segers, who says one of the most immersive rail shooters I've ever played. Andre, you love this game, man. Has a charming story with endearing characters, a whimsical tone, nostalgia. But that nostalgia is just part of the game because it has a twist. I'm not going to reveal the actual twist itself, though. Play it for yourself. But it's part nostalgia and part a daring sequel. So you start off with Medusa, fighting against Medusa from the NES game. But then, what's this? There's like an alien invasion. What is going on in the second part of the game? It's like an entirely different game. Unforgettable Chapters 2, the reset bomb attacking the humans, playing as a dog, and fighting Dark Pit, and also the Labyrinth of Deceit, which was so weird. The combat as well is just great. Has controversial controls, but once they click with you, they're incredibly fluid. There's dozens upon dozens of weapons and power-ups, and it was made by a man who loves perfection. The entire menu screen changes for one chapter. The entire screen just for one specific chapter. And also there's thousands of unlockables. This picture, this screen down here looks very much like Smash. Uprising has a lot of that kind of elements. So many unlockables, so many achievements, trophies. If you like Smash's post-game stuff, you'll love Uprising. There's so much replayability. And just justice for Uprising. It was disrespected on GameXplain before, but we can change that by voting it as the 2012 Game of the Year.
Oh my god.
Nice. You still have about a minute to spare if you need it.
I don't need it, Ash. I've made my point.
I mean,
That's it.
Open the question.
Short and sweet. I don't need it.
Dang.
All right.
Going in hard. All right.
The fact you ran out of things to say tells me all I need to know about Kid Icarus Uprising.
I was too scared that I was going to do another Dark Souls and blow through all of it.
Nice.
All right. Are we ready to move on to the Q&A, the interrogation?
Yes.
John?
Yeah,
Steve's roaring to go. All right, Steve, take it away.
John, I'm going to tell you a story about a man. A man whose primary hand is his left hand. And because of this affliction, he can't play Kid Icarus Uprising. Even though they shipped it with a stupid plastic stand, it makes me hurt, John. This game physically hurts me. How do you defend the terrible controls? You said they're controversial, but they don't click if you're a left-handed person, ever.
Sounds like it's your fault, Steve.
You know what? I got a cosign on that. I'm left-handed, and I had no issues. I'm just
It
saying.
should be, except Ash didn't even use the proper controls.
What do you mean? Well, I use button controls. I didn't
Exactly.
use
That's
the
not how the
stand.
game was meant to
Did
be
that
played.
ruin your enjoyment, Ash, using button controls?
Not even a little bit. In fact, it made me enjoy the game even more.
Okay, how do you make a game and ship it for a portable system that you have to bundle in a chunk of plastic to make it playable?
I don't think it does make it playable. I think the game's better without the stand. The stand definitely gives you a bit more ease of access, but if you just balance it on your knee, it's just fine. I've played Uprising on the train. I've had no problems.
So the game is so poorly designed it comes with a plastic stand it doesn't need?
Yeah, it
I
doesn't
don't
need the stand.
understand.
Do you hear yourself right now? Did you just hear the words you said? Balance it on your knee. It's a handheld system, not a knee balancing system. Anyways, that's betraying my point. This game famously, as far as I can tell, gave Sakurai serious wrist issues. Why is it worth subjecting damage to your physical self to endure this game?
Sakurai's a madman. He does all kind of things. But I feel... let's get back to the knee issue thing. I feel like your knee is portable. You can take your knee anywhere. You can put a system down on it just fine. It's like a portable table. You don't need a stand.
What do you say to those who don't have knees, John?
I say that Uprising doesn't lean entirely on just aiming. There's goddess abilities, so if you don't feel like moving your wrist around the entire time, you can literally use auto-reticle, or you can use explosions. You don't have to aim all the time. And I feel like if you're having wrist complaints, maybe it's because you aren't using the goddess abilities enough.
What about the lack of
Alright.
Circle Pad Pro support?
Yeah, that's an interesting question as well, Steve. And also, the Soccer Pro does enable left-handers to play. So that's that, and that's the game's
In
favor.
a very backwards way, John. in a downright offensive fashion.
So I'm not even going to try to criticize this game too much to you, John, because we all know how much I love it. However, one part of it that I never thought was that great was the multiplayer. Can you talk about that a bit and defend that?
Oh, yeah. I disagree. I love the multiplayer. I put maybe 40, 50 hours into the multiplayer.
Wow.
I love the free-for-all arena modes. And I feel like that's where the goddess abilities shine the most. Because if you aren't using the goddess abilities in multiplayer, then you're at a big disadvantage, because people are firing massive lasers across the screen.
30 seconds.
People are using different, like they can heal themselves with healing abilities. So I guess you can use things you unlock from the single player in the multiplayer. And it's like, every single part of the game kind of complements each other, I feel. So yeah, I think multiplayer is one of the best parts of the game.
Real quick, I feel like the on-rail sections is better than the platforming sections from the little bit I played. How do you defend that? Because I did find the platforming sections pretty clunky.
I will say the flying sections are the game at its finest. They are so good. The platforming sections, while maybe not at the same quality, they are still really fun to play. But yeah, the flying sections really are in a league of their own. They are so good.
Hey, he had less time because of the
No, that's fair.
because of his presentation going under 2
You know what?
minutes,
Good point.
which he apparently needed to defend the game.
Good point.
All right.
Good job, John. Good job.
Yay, good job.
Very nicely done.
Okay, who do we have up next?
I am next.
All right.
All right. So, for my game of the year for 2012, I was so close to picking Kid Icarus Uprising. It hurt not to, but there is one Nintendo game that came out in the same year that is even better, and that game is Rhythm Heaven Fever, baby. So this game is just oozing with charm and playability and approachability. It is the easiest game to pick up and play, regardless of whether you're rhythmically inclined or not. You don't have to like music games. It is a music game for the entry-level rhythm game player, but it's also incredibly hard to master. So if you're good at rhythm games, there's so much for you here. So why Rhythm Heaven Fever? First of all, Rhythm Heaven is Nintendo's secret best series, and that's a fact. I will hear no arguments to the contrary. It is a fact. Look at these characters. It's so colorful, so bright. They're so charming, and they convey a sense of approachability, even for people who don't, again, consider themselves rhythm gamers, or even people who aren't into video games at all. Like, just these really, really striking characters. You just look at the screen, and you're like, whoa, what's that? Like, you know, really big, bright, bold colors, very simple lines. You just can't help but be attracted to this game. These guys are all fantastic, and there's so many more characters than this. Its brilliance lies in the way that its mechanics actually remain incredibly simple throughout the game. No matter how hard it ever gets, you only ever use 2 buttons on the Wiimote, which is A and B. So, you know, the first game is super easy. You use 1 button. But even as you get to the end of the game, you're still only using 2 buttons, so there isn't a lot to memorize. It's about, you know, having these simple inputs, but then the music and the rhythm, that increases in complexity, but you never have to get crazy, you don't have to memorize any crazy inputs. And as I said before, it is so easy to approach. Anybody can play this game, even if you're not into music or good at rhythm. But you can play it forever. It's so difficult to get it perfect on every stage. So you really do get out of it what you put in, and you feel amazing when you start getting perfects, and when you can see yourself getting better. You can feel it. This game is so rewarding in the way that it gives you that feedback of how much better you're getting. And like I said, when you get your first perfect, it really feels special, and you feel accomplished. And there's so much diverse content. You have over 50 games. You have little side toys you can play with, little rhythm toys. But there are like more than 50 main games to play. And look at the variety here. This is crazy, and it's just so weird. You can conduct a post-match interview with a wrestler. You can help a bird jump in time with its flock. You can destroy evil spirits as a wandering samurai in order to recover a kid's stolen toy. You can help a dog and cat play badminton while flying. And there's so much more. I mean, this game is just bursting with variety and charm. And every scenario seems wacky, but it makes so much sense within the context of the rhythm gameplay. And even though some of the later game stages are sequels to previous ones that you've already played, they meaningfully switch up the music and switch up the song, the music, the rhythm to make it more difficult. So it doesn't feel too samey in that sense. And the other thing about Rhythm Heaven Fever that makes it so special is that Fever is the only game to be on a console. All other Rhythm Heaven games are confined to a handheld, and this game, turns out, it's a great party game. It's a great community game. I have brought this out at so many parties, and people are like, even people who aren't into games, again, they're like, what is this? Whoa, this is cool. This music is catchy. These visuals are so cool. I want to try it. So believe me when I say this, you need to try this game at a party, and this is why I want a Rhythm Heaven on Switch so much, because you get that community, that communal group vibe, and it's so fun to watch, and I'd say it's as fun to watch as it is to play. And that is it.
Nice.
All right.
You were just about to get
all I
that
got.
30-second extension there, Ash, so well done.
Good job,
Nice.
Ash.
Well, I don't even need that. Thank you.
All right. Now you're ready to be interrogated?
I am ready for the interrogation. Interrogate away.
Okay. Let's commence. Who wants to start things off here?
Ash, I bought a
Yes.
Wii for motion controls, and this game has none. It's just stupid buttons. How can I enjoy this?
Because you know what? As much as I like rhythm controls, John, and I do respect your love of rhythm controls, motion controls, I don't think rhythm games are one of the genres that benefit from them. Most of the not worst, but less good rhythm games I played use motion controls. It's just inherently not as precise as pressing a button. And even Rhythm Heaven itself proves this. The second game in the series for DS is some of the games are touch controlled, and that is so much harder to get perfects on because it's not intuitive. Just like motion controls, they're intuitive in other genres, but I really don't think they're ideal for rhythm games. And I think that would add to the complexity. One of the best things about this game, as I said, you only ever use 2 buttons, and that's it.
This game seems like it's random for the sake of being random. There's no connective tissue like, say, the WarioWare series. Unless I'm wrong. Is there a connective tissue that makes all these stories come together? Does it feel like you get a proper finale in, like, the same vein as Elite Beat Agents?
In a way, yes, but also no. This is not a overall story-driven game at all. The charm is in the individual character stories. Now, you will see characters pop up in multiple games, but there's no sense of real continuity or anything. It's more for the charm and to recognize these characters. But despite that, the self-contained stories in each minigame are so simple, but they're so charming, and they're effective for as long as they need to be, which isn't long. So I agree, this isn't the kind of game you would want to play if you're looking for a big, overarching, epic story. But the game does meaningfully ratchet up the stakes in the sense that every set of games ends in a remix that tests your skill with each game preceding it in the group, but makes it harder. And it switches between the games at random. Well, not at random, but it switches between the games, so you really have to think on your feet. And the game does culminate in a final remix that mixes up all 50 games, or 50-plus games, and you have to remember each one on the fly. And so it does feel like it does culminate into something in that sense, for sure.
Ash, you said anyone can play this game, even if they have no sense of rhythm. And I can tell you firsthand that is definitely not the case when it comes to Monkey Clock.
Oh, it's funny. I mean,
it's more a statement.
Fair. I guess that's fair. I know people have had trouble with Monkey Clock, but I've also seen, like my wife, for example, she definitely, banged on that one for a while, but she did it. Like, she started off, having difficulty, but by the end, she's killing Monkey Clock. So even though it's true, I would say that there are a few unfair difficulty, maybe even just a couple unfair difficulty spikes, of which Monkey Clock is one. I don't think that they are any different from the other ones in which practice makes perfect, and you can see yourself getting better, and you will eventually triumph over it, and you're going to feel great.
30 seconds, Ash. In a world where Megamix exists, how is FIFA still relevant?
Console. It's on a console, like I said. You've got that community party element where people can walk by the TV and see, what is this game? I don't even care about video games, but I want to at least watch this, if not try it. And it's a game that you don't have to explain to non-gamers. You don't have to explain the controls. You just give them the Wiimote, say, here's the A button, here's the B button, follow the on-screen directions, and go to town, have fun.
What if I want to play it on my knee?
That I don't. Well, then you'll have to go to Megamix, unfortunately. So yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, so good.
Good job, Ash.
Thanks very much. All right.
All right. I believe Derek's up next.
Guys, everybody all set to hear the correct answer for what the Game of the Year 2012 should be? As the slideshow says, I am a paragon of being right. So we're going to just continue this streak. And, guys, how could you forget about Xenoblade Chronicles? It is one of the best RPGs created of all time. There's just no comparison. It is a massive RPG with tons of character. It has one of the most unique settings in RPG history, where it's just two giants that actually fought each other until basically a standstill, and vegetation and animals and everything popped up amongst them. So even though you're in forests or wherever, you can always see these giants leaning over you, and it gives it such a unique sense of place. It's also completely devoid of random battles, yet filled with side quests. There is so much extra stuff to do that you don't have to focus on, but it helps a lot. And every side quest helps. It gives you experience. Like, you don't have to grind at all in this game. If you just focus on side quests, you can be completely ready and set to go. And so it makes it feel like everything you do matters. It gives everything weight and makes it just a joy to play. Plus, for a Wii game, it is utterly gorgeous. There are day-night settings, and you get this wonderful forest that just lights up. It looks normal during the day, but you get the night setting, and it just lights up in these gorgeous lights. And then you go to the winter area, and it's just all of snow and boring and bland. And then it goes to night, and everything becomes lit up with lights streaming into the sky, and it looks beautiful. I cannot say that enough. But it also has gameplay that evolves. It slowly eases you into each of its systems, while each piece is fun on its own. So how you're playing at the very beginning of the game is quite different from how you're handling things at the end, because mainly because of Shulk and his time ability, it changes up how you play and really makes it fun and interesting. Plus, each new ability you do gain makes you feel powerful, and each one of those abilities can be powered up, so you can make something completely unique to yourself, however you feel the characters play the best. Not only that, but every single level up feels like a real increase in skill. It's not just, oh, I'm level 6 now, I guess I can do a little bit more. No, if you're having trouble against an enemy at level 5 and you go to level 6, you will do better against that enemy. It is a tangible feeling that you get. Plus, every character plays different, and while you only control one at a time, you can change up who you play as and completely change up your tactics and change how you feel about playing through the game. Plus, it just has a great story that completely sucks you in.
30 seconds.
It's humans versus robots done differently. It has tragedy that feels real without losing its sense of humor as you go through. And it has one of the best protagonists of all time with Shulk. Plus a perfect soundtrack with each one being beautiful, exciting, with these great people. It's perfect. So good. And it's a true success story in that fans had to beg Nintendo to bring Xenoblade Chronicles to North America, and now it is one of the most beloved RPGs of all time and one of Nintendo's best properties. And it's so good that it's getting HD remaster with restored content. Boom.
All right. Good job, Derek.
Nice.
Nice.
Derek, you ready to defend your choice now?
I don't feel like there's anything to defend. I'm right.
All right.
All right, who wants to step up to bat then?
I will. So, I do love this game. However, I do think that it falls into the pitfall of sometimes being too big. It can be a little intimidating in the sense of how huge the environments are and how long it takes to comb every last inch of them. And not only that, but especially the side quests. There are, in my opinion, way too many side quests in this game, a lot of which are very samey. Like, you take this thing, go hunt this monster, take this thing to the person. How do you defend that to me?
There are a lot of places to explore and a lot of things to do in each one, and yeah, they can seem excessive at times, but you don't need to focus on them. You can completely just dedicate yourself to the main story and not get bogged down. It becomes attractive to do those side quests because they are so rewarding, and while they might seem a bit samey in what you might do here and there, like hunting down monsters or getting a specific item, it also doesn't really waste your time with those because you can just grab the side quests and get them as you go along because you don't need to go back to the quest giver. As soon as you finish it, it's done and you're good to go. So it really, like, while you do have the drive to actually try to do everything, I completely get that. You don't have to, and you can still feel rewarded just by doing a little bit at a time.
Derek, this is an 80-hour RPG. Is all that time well spent, or is there some padding?
I'm trying to think of any places that might have a little bit of padding, and I think most of the padding comes in through the side quest stuff, which again, you can go ignore if you so choose. The story content itself and where you go all feel impactful and important and really just draws you in because, I mean, even if it doesn't have a specific story reason or like a major reason for it, seeing how it's all developed and what they do next there is, I think, engaging enough.
I'm not a huge fan of Xenoblade's battle system. The idea that I can't really control my partners and Shulk attacks automatically just made the game never click for me. How do you defend that to somebody who's not a fan of... How would you defend the battle system to somebody who prefers something more traditional out of an RPG?
I mean, is it that much more impactful for you to actually select attack? That's really what it comes down to. It's like, yes, you do automatically attack. It takes all those stats into the case, but it allows you to focus on your positioning, which is a major aspect of the game, as certain skills that you use are dependent on whether you're in front of the enemy or on the side of them or behind them. So if you had to focus all your time on actually attacking each individual time, I think it would take away from things and not allow you to focus on the important aspects of the battle, which is your positioning and which abilities you're using. So I feel like if it did have an attack button, it would take away from it more than anything else. And it's an adjustment, but I think it's an adjustment worth making.
Derek, if this game is so good, why take Nintendo years to bring it to the US?
I mean, name any game that Nintendo ignores for a long time that people love that they don't want to bring over. But the fact that we did get it and all of a sudden they're like, oh geez, yeah, we want this.
Time. All right. Good job, Derek.
Thank you.
All right. So I'm up next.
Yep.
Yes.
All right. Everyone ready for the true game of 2012?
Ready.
Let's see what you got.
Here we go. Game of the decade 2012. An argument for me and you.
Oh, God.
Oh, no.
So growing up, local multiplayer is some of the most fun I had with gaming in general. Whether it was games like Bomberman or Split Screen Halo, Smash Brothers, or Split Screen GoldenEye. Some of my favorite gaming memories just came from playing on the same couch with my friends in the same room, trash talking each other, and just having just bonding over games. And that's something that doesn't exist so much these days, especially in 2012. They're dead. They were effectively dead. Clearly, as you can see by the skull and crossbones here. Except for Nintendo in 2012, in which they made a bold move, and that was launching a system with an offline local multiplayer focused game as one of their premier launch titles. It was in fact a pack-in title if you bought the more expensive Wii U. So let's go and break this down a little bit. What this game did is it offered something new. Nintendo looked at Split Screen as like, you know what, that's cool, but we can make it even cooler by giving you another screen to play with. So by adding the Wii U gamepad, they did this thing called asymmetrical multiplayer, which gives one player a different perspective on the environment than the others playing on the TV. So in the game like Mario Chase, which is basically a game of tag, it lets one player on the gamepad see the full map of where everyone is and chase them down, whereas everyone else has a very limited viewpoint on the TV, and they have to be careful of watching out for Mario. Similar mechanics for Animal Crossing Sweet Day, in which the gamepad player has 2 cops to try and wrangle up the players, which is just hilarious. And then we have Luigi's Ghost Mansion, which allowed the gamepad player to see exactly where they're at as a ghost in order to hunt the other players on the TV who can't see the ghost player. And the people on the TV have to work together and communicate where the ghost is and try to avoid him, or rather try to catch him. So this game was basically... Oh, that did not work at all, but whatever. This game was basically the Wii Sports of Wii U, as illustrated by the family that is completely covered up by the rest of my images here. But it brought people together, not to obviously the degree that Wii Sports did, but in a similar fashion, in which people who had no experience with games could have fun with these games, because this game offered something for everyone. Whether it was having a cooperative Zelda experience, or playing a single-player adventure in which you have to maneuver through the skies and avoid obstacles, or even having a shooter-based experience, whether by yourself or with friends. Not even to mention the games I just covered in the previous slide. There was a lot here. There was something here for everyone, no matter what your skill level was. And I do want to draw particular attention to Metroid Blast, because this game was just fantastic. Whether you're playing alone or with others, this game was so fun, and it was super epic, and I just think it deserves a special call out. This game alone might be the game of the year, in fact. So to wrap things up here, do you like fun? Because if so, then the game of ignore the year there, the game of 2012
30 seconds.
is a clear choice. I end my case. That's my argument.
All right.
Well done.
Nicely done.
All right. Okay, guys, interrogate me on why I'm right.
On why you're
Andre.
right.
I didn't see any slides featuring the Pikmin game, the F-Zero game, or the Game & Watch Rhythm game. Are you telling me, are they still part of the game of the year? Are they really good?
There is so much good about Nintendo Land, John. I could not fit it into one presentation. I had to boil it down to its core essentials, the best parts of this game, and focus only on them. But yes, like I said, there's something for everyone. So if you like Pikmin, there you go.
Is the Game & Watch Rhythm game a good game?
It isn't. I will concede that. It's not a good game.
Andre, you would call yourself a Donkey Kong fan, wouldn't you?
Oh no, I don't like where this is going.
I mean, you do like Donkey Kong.
I do like Donkey Kong, yes.
But you didn't mention the Donkey Kong game.
I didn't. It's true. So there
Why?
are. I will readily admit there are a few portions of this game that aren't good. Most of the single player games actually aren't that great. However, the great thing about this game is you can ignore them.
How many are there, though?
How many what?
Single player games.
I think 6. I think it's half.
And how
12
many
game
are there
roster.
total?
Oh no, I'm sorry. It might be 3. 3. I think it's 3.
Whoa.
No, 6. I forget.
Here's a problem too, though, because 3 of the multiplayer games are very similar. Mario Chase, Luigi's Mansion, Animal Crossing, they're all chasing games. So you're telling us that a big chunk of these games aren't very good, and a lot of them are very similar.
Is not every game a chasing game when you boil it down? Halo, you're chasing after your opponents. Ridge Racer, you're chasing after the first place victory. So yes, they are similar, but they all play distinctly enough to stand out. It's only when you look at it in the abstract that you can really see that similarity, in my opinion.
So I've tried to get friends to play this when I first got my Wii U, and they might have played a few of the games like Mario Chase or the Animal Crossing one, but beyond that, I could not get them invested. And I think that's an ultimate weakness of Nintendo Land. How do you feel about that? That people just weren't able to get beyond some of the more complex games?
I think you need to get better friends, first off.
I knew that was coming, but
Secondly,
still.
Like I said, it offers something for everyone. It doesn't offer everything for everyone. So sure, not every part of the game is going to appeal to everyone. Like I said, even most of the single-player games don't appeal to me. But I found in my experience at least, the games that resonated with people or your friend group are like they alone could provide hours of entertainment. I played so many rounds of Mario Chase with my parents who didn't play games at all the time, and they just had a blast. Or in Luigi's Mansion, it offered something that we hadn't quite seen before in terms of multiplayer being, again, asymmetric. And I think even though not every aspect of the game is a home run, the parts that hit really do hit hard in my experience.
Is it counterintuitive to launch a Wii U game but require previous generation controllers to even play it multiplayer?
Oh, absolutely. I won't defend that. Although, actually, I will. I will offer
seconds.
this. The Wii was basically one of the best-selling consoles of its time, which meant a ton of people had controllers for it. So, actually, it was pretty sweet that you didn't have to go out and buy 4 new controllers just to enjoy multiplayer on your brand new system. If you had a Wii, you were probably already set. You already had everything you needed to play with a full group of people.
Didn't games like Zelda require Motion Plus though? And that's not a guarantee. I only had one controller that had Motion Plus.
I don't appreciate you poking holes in my own defense, Derek.
And time.
All right.
All right. Nicely argued, Andre.
Yeah, well done,
I love
Andre.
Nintendo now, by the way. It's hard to grill it.
I do need better friends.
Me too. I hear that.
Present company included.
Things got, especially. All right, Steve, you're up.
So let's get started. This is my 2012 pick for Game of the Year, and there's actually a massive hint about the game on this first screen, which none of y'all can see because Discord is compressing it horribly. But it is a cityscape, specifically Hong Kong, because my 2012 Game of the Year is Sleeping Dogs. What is Sleeping Dog? I can hear from the silence that none of y'all ever played this game.
We're sleeping. We're sleeping.
Oh, I played
I
it.
have this game, so
liked it.
keep going.
Andre clearly slept on it. Anyway, so what is Sleeping Dogs? Sleeping Dogs is an open-world crime drama focused on the life of Wei Shen, an undercover cop trying to infiltrate the gangs of Hong Kong. So it's kind of like GTA then, right? And the answer is yes and no. Here's what makes Sleeping Dogs stand out. It's got a star-studded cast. Emma Stone is in this game. Lucy Liu is in this game. It's made by a Canadian developer who unfortunately went out of business, but it has an incredibly faithful recreation of Hong Kong. They flew to Hong Kong and took over 25,000 photos for reference material for this. And it has a focus on morality and martial arts. So here's what I mean when I say that. Wei Shen is a cop posing as an initiate in a major gang. Through this, Sleeping Dogs explores the nuances of morality. You shouldn't feel bad for the deaths of your allies because they're bad people. But instead, you get invested in these people's lives, realizing they have families, fears, and motivations of their own. There's one particularly poignant scene where you're going into basically a trap with, another gang member. This guy sucks. Like, he's an objectively bad person, and you probably should be okay with him being shot to death, but he's telling you how you need to go back to his mom and tell him what happened if he doesn't make it out of this. And it's just, in that moment, you realize that, even though these are objectively awful people, they're not just one-dimensional. They have other sides to them. They have their own stories and their own reasons for doing the awful things they do, and they have people they care about the same as all of the rest of us. They do such an excellent job humanizing these bad people. So you have to balance your behavior in Sleeping Dogs. You have to be bad enough to convince gangs you aren't a cop, and good enough to convince cops you haven't changed sides. So you kind of have to weigh out your options, and this also leads to varied gameplay, because you can take side missions either for the gangs you're part of or for the police. So in some instances, you'll actually be playing kind of cops and robbers, and in some, you'll just be playing robbers. Just look at this game. Because I had a feeling that people wouldn't be familiar with this, just look at how gorgeous the environment is here. Like, the neon signs and the reflections on the car, everything in this game is gorgeous. And you can see here an example of the combat system. Slim Shady over here has been pushed into some electric wiring, and that's a huge part of how Sleeping Dogs works. The combat isn't just gunplay. It's focused much more on hand-to-hand combat. It feels like you're playing a Hong Kong kung fu flick, not like just another GTA game where you run, find cover, and shoot at people.
Seconds.
Instead, you fight and use everything around you to make the most. It almost reminds me of Mad World and how much you can use. Like that. That's pretty gross. If you can't tell what's going on here, Wei Shen is shoving a dude's head into a fan. So it can get pretty brutal at times. But that's it. I'm not even gonna convince you. I'm doing my best to convince you this is the game of the year, but please buy Sleeping Dogs. It's wonderful. That's it. That's all I have to say, really. Thanks.
Right.
I love
Time.
you.
I like how that's a question mark. I love you. Depending on your answer.
As long as you vote for it, I love you. But yeah.
Good job, Steve. So it's time.
Yeah, well done.
Time to...
I like when we have the chance to champion smaller games.
There we go. See,
right.
I like that.
All right,
We're rooting for the sleeping underdog.
There we go. Are you ready to be interrogated?
I am.
All right. Who wants to start things off here?
So, obviously, Sleeping Dogs sets it apart because of its morality system and its combat and whatnot, but what kind of extra side missions do you get to do? Because GTA is famous for having all kinds of crazy things that you can do that are not part of the main mission. Does Sleeping Dogs have a lot of that, or is it more story-focused?
There is less of that, but because Sleeping Dogs is more realistic in a sense. It takes a more realistic take on the world, whereas GTA is a lot more satirical, so there's a lot more room for weird stuff. But there is one really crazy quest chain where you basically end up with a Batmobile at the end of it. A guy has you get a car for him, and then he has you race it around town for him, and each time you win a race, he gives you a crazy upgrade. And then when you reach the end of this chain, suddenly it's got like machine guns on it, and it's armored and invincible, and it's basically Batman's car. So there is some weird fun stuff you can do on the side in Sleeping Dogs that's off the beaten path, and you can collect crazy outfits. Like your game was Enslaved, Derek, and you can get a Sun Wukong outfit in this game if you feel like
nice.
it.
Nice. Okay, so I actually really like this game, Steve. Sleeping Dogs was great. However, I would like you to argue for it in a world where the Yakuza series also exists, and other than the fact that you are playing as a cop, a protagonist, and not, as part of the Yakuza.
Sure. So, I mean, you could also say Judgment is a game where you're playing on the right side of the law instead of the wrong side. But
True.
What makes this unique, first off, and this is one of the most, I want to call it socially responsible games ever made. Everyone that is of Asian descent in this game is voiced by an actor or actress of Asian descent. And Yakuza, though it's pretty authentic, doesn't quite go that far with it, right? Also, this game, the combat system is leagues better than Yakuza, even after the years they've had to refine it. Sleeping Dogs just feels better.
For an open world game, are the controls better or worse than Grand Theft Auto?
I think that depends on what you're talking about. Combat-wise, the controls are leagues better. I think that the Rage engine has some major issues with how it handles ground-based combat, although I do think that Grand Theft Auto's vehicles control just a little bit better. One major point that I would make, or a distinction I would make, is that the cops are a lot less psychic in Sleeping Dogs than they are in Grand Theft Auto games. Like in Grand Theft Auto games, if you get into a fender bender, they'll chase you all the way across town, whereas in Sleeping Dogs, it does seem like you have to do something a bit more severe to get their attention.
Is driving actually fun in this game? Because it wasn't in Grand Theft Auto 4.
30 seconds.
Sleeping Dogs is really fun, especially once you get that crazy Batmobile I was talking about. But one of the things is there are some sections where you have to do car chases, and you can shoot out tires of cars, and it does this really awesome slow motion thing like in action movies where you shoot out a car's tire and it like flips over in slow motion and explodes. It makes driving a lot of fun in that game.
Cool, and that's time.
All right. Good
Nice.
job, Steve.
Well done.
Well done, Steve.
Thank you.
And that's the end of our 2012 Game of the Decade debate. So we're off to go vote. And you should go vote too using the link in the description below. Remember, your votes count as if you are a 6th Game Explained member. So make sure to check back tomorrow to see who won 2012. Along with our debate of which game from 2013 could be our Game of the Decade. Hey, even click that subscribe button and ring the bell. You'll be notified as soon as the video's up. And with that, we'll see you tomorrow.